In the spring of 1845, Sir John Franklin, a seasoned and decorated officer of the British Royal Navy, set out with two ships, the Erebus and the Terror, to finally discover the mysterious Northwest Passage. This route, long suspected to connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the northern islands of Canada, was among the greatest geographical mysteries of the age. Franklin and his 129 men ventured into the icy unknown with full determination and enough provisions for 3 years. Nearly a century and a half later, in August 1984, Canadian scientists uncovered 3 graves on Beechy Island, near the entrance to the Wellington Channel. The bodies, perfectly preserved by the ice, were almost intact. 3 young sailors who had served aboard Franklin's ships. On their faces, guarded by the eternal frost, still rested the expression of their final moment before death. This was the first concrete evidence of the fate of one of the Arctic's most tragic expeditions. But what exactly did happen? In the mid-19th century, finding the Northwest Passage was not merely a scientific goal, but also an economic one. The British Admiralty and merchants dreamed of a new, shorter sea route between Europe and Asia, since the Panama Canal was still only a dream of the future. The only way to reach the Pacific Ocean from the Atlantic was to sail around the stormy and dangerous Cape Horn. The discovery of a northern passage could have revolutionized world trade. Sir John Franklin was no novice in the Arctic. He had joined the Navy at the age of 14 and had even fought in the Battle of Trafalgar. Later, through his mapping expeditions in the Canadian Arctic, he gained both fame and respect. For his service to his country, he was knighted, and later spent several years as governor of Tasmania. Yet the world of ice kept calling him back. Nearing his 60th year, he could not resist the call. Once more, for the last time, he wanted to find the Northwest Passage. On May 19th, 1845, the Erebus and the Terror sailed down the Thames. Amid the cheers of the crowd, the ships were equipped with screw-driven steam engines, a novelty at the time, and carried provisions and equipment for 3 years. The crew consisted of carefully selected men. In one of Franklin's final messages, he wrote with confidence, "We have not the slightest doubt of our success. Our next stop, Hong Kong." It was the last message ever heard from them. When years passed without further word, anxiety in England grew. In 1848, the Admiralty offered a reward of £20,000 to anyone who could find the members of the expedition. Franklin's wife, Lady Franklin, added another £3,000 from her own fortune. From that moment on, the greatest rescue mission in human history was set in motion. More than 40 expeditions set out for the Arctic in vain. Ships, explorers, and entire fortunes were lost. Yet no ship and no survivor were found. finally, in 1851, a search vessel's crew discovered 3 graves and numerous abandoned objects on Beechey Island. The food tins, empty bottles, and coiled ropes all testified. The inscriptions on the tombstones revealed 3 names: John Torrington, John Hartnell, and William Brain. They were the first known victims. In 1854, Dr. John Ray, a physician of the Hudson's Bay Company, returned to England with shocking news. He presented artifacts purchased from the Inuit that had belonged to Franklin's expedition. According to his report, the locals had encountered about 40 white men traveling south by sled and boat after their ships had been crushed by the ice. Later, dozens of bodies were found, some mutilated. In his grim report, John Ray revealed that, in their final moments of desperation, the starving men had turned to cannibalism to stay alive. However, Lady Franklin did not give up. With the last of her fortune, she fitted out a small ship, the Fox, and placed it under the command of Captain Francis Leopold McClintock. They departed in 1857. The little steamer drifted for 8 months, trapped in the ice, before finally resuming its voyage from Greenland. On Beechey Island, they erected a memorial plaque in honor of Franklin and his men, then continued toward Bellot Strait. McClintock and his men traveled by dog sled across the Boothia Peninsula and King William Island, where they finally discovered the last traces of Franklin's expedition. In 1859, near Cape Victory, they found a message hidden beneath a stone cairn. The paper bore the signatures of Lieutenant Graham Gore and Captain James Fitzjames. His Majesty's ships, the Terror and the Erebus, were deserted on April 22, 1848, after having been beset in ice since September 12, 1846. Sir John Franklin died on June 11, 1847. A postscript revealed that 105 survivors had set out southward toward the Great Fish River, their final desperate attempt to escape. They never reached civilization. Modern science has revealed that the fate of Franklin's expedition was sealed by their spoiled food supplies. When the skeletons of the crew were found in the 1850s, weapons and still preserved, seemingly edible provisions lay beside them. Why then did they all perish when they had both food and guns for hunting? For more than a century, this mystery remained unsolved. Historians, explorers, and scientists could only speculate about what had doomed Franklin's men in the endless ice. Then, in 1984, anthropologist Owen Beatty examined the bodies unearthed on Beechey Island. His analysis revealed unusually high levels of lead, likely caused by poorly sealed tinned food aboard the ships. Lead poisoning brings loss of appetite, exhaustion, weakness, and disorders of the nervous system, often leading to unpredictable behavior and paralysis. It also made the men far more vulnerable to diseases like pneumonia. The tragedy of the Franklin expedition became one of the darkest chapters in the history of polar exploration. Although the 2 ships were rediscovered only in the 21st century, deep in Canadian waters, The name of Sir John Franklin remains engraved forever in the pantheon of explorers. His courage, determination, and tragic fate became an inspiration to all who sought the limits of knowledge and discovery at the edge of the world. Even today, bays, straits, and geographical points in Canada bear his name, while that of Lady Franklin lives on at a headland on Victoria Island, and the silence of the frozen north still guards the memory of the British sailor's final voyage. A lasting symbol of the eternal struggle between human endurance and the power of nature. Thank you for joining this journey through ice and history. If this story of courage and discovery moved you, share your thoughts below and join our crew by subscribing for more tales from the edge of the world.